Hey guys, Jonathan Rice here, licensed CPA in the state of Louisiana. Today we are going to be talking about Puzzle.io. I'm going to call it Puzzle going forward simply because Puzzle.io doesn't really roll off the tongue. So for those of you who don't know, Puzzle is an accounting software that is AI first. It is essentially, I guess, the new generation of accounting software, whereas most accounting softwares now have implemented AI in some form or fashion or some type of recursive learning based off prior patterns and bookings. Puzzle was built and engineered with AI at its core. So the way that I like to describe it is Puzzle is basically a car that was built around an engine, with the engine being AI, whereas other accounting softwares that already existed, like QuickBooks for instance, AI is more of an aftermarket add-on. And today we're going to be walking through Puzzle, kind of familiarizing ourselves with the dashboard and seeing what all it has to offer. Puzzle is primarily focused on small businesses and startups, typically businesses that may not have net positive cash flow yet, businesses where founders may need to make decisions quickly based off new and incoming data. Instead of waiting for a monthly closeout period, Puzzle is able to pretty much instantaneously book things as it sees it come through the bank account, so you have the most up-to-date information readily available, and that's part of the reason it's so strong for those startups, because those decisions often need to be made quickly on a day-to-day basis, or at least on a week-to-week basis. That way you're not having to wait for the end of the accounting period to get the information that you need in order to run your business. Alright, so I am in a test company right now. As you can see, the first thing that we need to talk about is the dashboard. And that is honestly one of my favorite things about Puzzle. The dashboard is very sleek, the UI is very user-friendly, and then it also delivers some very much key and pertinent information. So the first thing, obviously, let's talk about is cash. Cash is the lifeblood of any business. Without cash, you're not going to meet payroll, you're not going to pay your bills, you're not going to have left anything to pay your mortgage as a business owner. Cash is king. So right here you can drill into just about every report that Puzzle generates, and cash is no different. Basically, this is just the total sum of all cash available within all of your accounts connected to Puzzle. So if I have like 5 or 6 different bank accounts, operating account, savings account, money market accounts, things like that, if those are all synced to Puzzle, it'll sum it up and put it here in the dashboard. Other aspects of the dashboard are going to be your net burn. So essentially, how much cash am I running through in a month? So if I've got $1 million available, I have a net burn of $130,000 a month, I have a runway of, oh goodness, I think that's around 8 months, maybe 7 or 8 months. That math is kind of hard to do off the top of your head. And that is what this is showcasing, and it's going to generate that data based off what it has seen historically and kind of what it expects based off invoices that you've sent out and money that's coming in the door. The runway rate is very similar. The runway rate actually shows you with your net burn what exactly you're going to have left in terms of time. So if you have that $1 million and you have that net burn, the runway rate shows you what's going to be left after you go through 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and that's going to have that declining balance here. So other portions of the dashboard, here you can see that these have drop down arrows, which means you can drill into them. These bottom 3 metrics do not. So spend right here, that's pretty self-explanatory. How much are you spending month to month? Now it is categorized. You can see here that the dark purple is payroll related. Typically payroll is one of the highest expenses in most categories. And then that light pink up top is non-payroll. So you can quickly break that out and see what you're spending on labor, materials, stuff like that. Net burn month over month is just your cash burn month over month. It's similar to your 3-month average, although that's just going to be a look back period of 30 or 31 days. Pretty much everyone's favorite here, revenue. How much money do you have coming in the door? And that's going to be based off the invoices that you have outgoing or income received in the bank. So if you scroll down a little bit, the dashboard, I always like to say that gross is vanity, profit is sanity, and that is going to kind of showcase right here. So up top you have your gross revenue, And then you have all your associated expenses here, and we're going to drill into these in just a second. And then you'll showcase your net income, that sanity that I just mentioned. And you can see it has a look back period of 3 months. It's super intuitive, super easy to use. Balance sheet, very similar. We can pop these open, see what we have outstanding in terms of our assets, drill into these, cash. Looks like in this test company we don't have any assets such as vehicles, buildings, anything like that. And then for our liabilities, credit card payments, any lines of credits, things like that. It's a pretty standard balance sheet, but you can continue to drill in and see where these payables are coming from. And then if you come over here, you can click and it'll actually show you the entry within the ledger that is comprising that balance, which is pretty sleek, pretty quick to be able to access that information. And I just think I can't get over how, I guess, seamless the experience is. They've done an excellent job of ensuring that any information that you may need to find is readily available. And I really adore that. You could say it's just easy to find whatever you're looking for. So if you jump back over to the profit and loss, it's similar to the balance sheet that I just showcased, in that you can drill into just about anything. So in this instance, looks like most of the revenue is comprised of the subscription revenue here. You can pop that open and continue to drill into it. Most of it's coming from Stripe, and these are payments from our customers. And then if we go down here, we'll find something similar with our hosting fees. You can drop that down, drill in, and see that most of our hosting fees are from Amazon Web Services, and it'll showcase that month's costs. Similar thing in the prior month, AWS. It's just categorizing. It sees what comes through the bank account, and then it books it appropriately. All right, this is every accountant's dream, a checklist. I don't know about you guys, but I love a checklist because it ensures that nothing gets missed at the end of the month. And so Puzzle, based off your activity, the type of business that you set up your company as, will showcase what an appropriate accounting checklist looks like, where you are in the month, what it can help you do. So obviously the first thing that you're going to want to do is reconcile those bank accounts. And a lot of times it will help you do that, and it'll showcase the difference. If it does get hung up on something, it'll call out the difference here. For these guys, which may have more data incoming, Stripe, the report is available after the end of the business month, but typically the bank accounts don't really offer any challenges. A lot of this are things that we're pretty familiar with as accountants, so just reviewing transfers between bank accounts, credit card payments, ensuring that all loans received and dispersed were accounted for intra-company. And then it's basically asking you to go through and just double check. AI is a very powerful tool, but it's a tool that should not be left unchecked, because if it starts to do things incorrectly, it'll continue to do things incorrectly. And so you may have quite a bit of cleanup to do if you catch something after 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. You have 9 months of work time to instead of 1. So really spending some time on this checklist to ensure that Puzzle's AI is running the way that you would anticipate. I cannot stress that enough. I don't often find errors within it, but when you do find those errors, you want to get them corrected as quickly as possible. It'll save you a lot of grief later on. Other items on the checklist, so at year-end, month-end, quarter-end, whenever you're getting ready to file for your taxes or send out information related to financials to stakeholders, you're going to want to identify any new assets. And then this is just a no-brainer. I would normally port this in Excel or view it directly in Puzzle or QuickBooks or Xero or whatever other accounting software I'm using, and that is review the P&L month over month. I usually pull about 6 months of prior data. That way, anytime I'm looking at those ledger accounts, expense accounts, revenue accounts, if there is a significant change anywhere within like any of those accounts, if I see a spike or a dramatic drop, I'm going to immediately know to drill into that account, take a look, and say what changed, what's different. Did I get a large check from a big customer that I've been waiting on, or maybe I had some higher expenses because there was an extra payroll run this month, something like that. And so you just drill into those and then treat the balance sheet the same way. Did I have any large fluctuations? Puzzle recommends the same thing. That's just good record keeping. It's being a decent accountant. And then you're just going to want to finalize your review. And all that consists of is double checking all of those transactions that you or Puzzle's AI made. Alright guys, let's talk about bank and credit card transactions. So this screen should be pretty familiar to most of you who spend any times in any accounting software. This is basically going to be a bank ledger, a linked account from like a credit card or bank account, and it's going to have the date, the vendor, the amount, typically that bank text memo, and then the category that Puzzle thinks that it should be coded to. What makes Puzzle a little different is it does tell you if it suggests it or where it comes from. If this is like from Gusto, a payroll provider, it'll say system link transaction. You can drill in here to change it. So let's say it miscategorized lift, and maybe this was a ski lift, and you needed to go in and tell it this is traveling with clients or something like that, or travel expense, or business expenses for meetings with clients, something of that nature. You can drill in and change it right here. And that's going to be the gist of this screen. It's going to be similar for your payment processors over here. And what this screen is if you use Square, for instance, it's going to tell you the amount of incoming funds from Square, what Square's fees were, and then the net amount from that payment processor forwarded to your bank account. If you need a little bit more information about what was forwarded to your bank account, you can simply just drill into the transaction. Here's the subscription payment revenue, $2,500, and then the Stripe processing fees. It says they're going to withhold $80, and then you get $2,420. That's pretty basic math. Alright, so I've jumped over into the analysis tab. So this is actually one of my favorite parts. I keep harping on how streamlined and just user-friendly that UI is. So if you jump over to spending, it's going to show you what your top categories are. Software, hosting fees, and then it's also going to call out the primary, I have made a mistake. It's going to primarily show you the non-payroll items underneath this tab. And if you drill in over here, you can drill into payroll and see that your engineering team is going to be costing you the most money, which makes sense. They are a revenue driver. I like the non-payroll simply because I typically have a tab of what I'm spending on my labor costs. Now, if you're looking to do something that you may need to do like a riff or something like that, you can see where most of your labor costs is. But those non-payroll categories are where I would focus most, because to me a payroll it's a necessary cost. You usually get out what you put in. So, and then over here it's going to show the vendors who are comprising those non-payroll costs. So here you can see it's Amazon Web Services, Carta, Google Workspace, and then you can drill in to get even more granular here. And then you also have the options to filter this out, and a sweet little diagram right here that shows you what comprises your total spend: 17% non-payroll, 83% payroll. If you scroll down a little bit, it'll showcase also what your largest purchases have been over the last reporting period. So in this instance, Amazon Web Services for almost $11,000, Carta for $3,800, and away you go. Here, if you drill into the revenue, you'll find a similar dashboard. This is going to be similar to what you find under P&L. It's going to be those revenue accounts. Typically, in this instance, revenue accounts are 40,000 to 49,000. It's going to showcase what revenue hit what account, and then it's going to net it at the bottom. And then you can also change your reporting periods up here. We had the last 3 months stated by standard. You can also see what your monthly recurring revenue is and your annual recurring revenue by drilling in here. And then you can also see what those are by customers. This is a super handy metric if you're trying to figure out who your primary customers are and when and what amount they are going to send you on what basis. All right, let's jump over to the People tab. This is one of the biggest cost factors for any business, and that's going to be payroll. So here you can get a snapshot of basically employees within the company. So if you drill in, it'll give you the employee's name, what their pay is, what department, and then what your annual payroll and your monthly payroll expenses are stacking up to be. Depending on how you have puzzles set up with who's categorized by what, it'll showcase what department that they're working in, and then you can also filter it by a reporting period. Additionally, if you need to do further analysis, you can see who's getting paid what by drilling into like a software engineer here for David Hedgeman. And by looking at this, you can find that I need to switch careers. No, but in all seriousness, this can help you figure out when you last gave someone a raise, what you're expected to spend on this person, what you're paying in payroll taxes, stuff like that. So now we're going to jump into some of the more technical items. So the accounting, we can jump into the general ledger here. As this is a test company, there's not going to be any general ledger entries, but where those general ledger entries would generate from would be the chart of accounts. So if you're an accountant, you're pretty familiar with the chart of accounts. If you're just a small business owner who has no idea what I'm talking about, basically your chart of accounts is what comprises your P&L or balance sheet. You make entries to each account. If you have cash coming in, for instance, this will increase the balance of your cash account on your balance sheet. Everything hits a general ledger account in order to generate your financial statements. Pretty straightforward. If you still are unclear on it, you should probably hire a bookkeeper, hire an accountant, hire a CPA, because you're probably going to need that help. But this is a chart of accounts. You can add accounts just like any other software. And Puzzle's going to ask you a couple questions about what that account looks like. And so if I jump over to add account here, I can say this is probably a cash account. It's an asset account. I do like this right here. This just caught my eye as I was walking through this, a contra asset. I have found that especially QuickBooks does not allow a lot of contra asset accounts, which is super handy if you're trying to clean something up and showcase it on a balance sheet or P&L, in this case a balance sheet. And then it's going to ask for some descriptions and what you want to tag it as, and then Puzzle's AI will be able to help link transactions to that new general ledger account. If you jump down to reconciliations are a breeze with Puzzle because typically its AI is going to do a pretty good job of identifying transactions and matching them to their appropriate expense or balance sheet account or revenue account. And in this case, it's a $0 difference. You would just go in, review, click finalize. Once again, I just want to harp that it is super important to double check everything, at least until you get comfortable and know that what Puzzle is running through is correct and you feel pretty confident in it. I did just drill in. There is nothing to reconcile within the test company. And then manual journal entries. That's going to be pretty standard among all accounting softwares, including Puzzle. So let's say something to get entered or you need to make an adjustment because you know that there's an expense that's been, maybe somebody wrote a check and it's just been sitting on your desk for the last 2 or 3 days, but you need to still capture it in that accounting period. You can go ahead and enter that as a manual journal entry if you don't want to enter it as a check within that module. In this instance, it's just an accrual here, pretty straightforward. Fixed assets, things that are going to be on the company's balance sheet, you would record here. And then once those fixed assets are recorded within the system, Puzzle can automatically amortize or depreciate those assets over a 5, 3, 7 year basis, as you can see here, and it'll do that automatically every month. Revenue, invoices, Puzzle can help automate sending out invoices, which I think is super handy to save time, especially if it's a consistent amount every month. You can just set it to say, I want this to go on the 25th of every month for $5,000. This is really useful if you're a subscription-based company. It could be a little bit harder if you're like a manufacturing company. If you're a service company and you're consistently working with your clients and you're sending them a $1,000 invoice every month, this will also help automate that away. If your invoice amounts differ based off what you're selling, what you're providing, you may have to be a little bit more hands-on unless you're sending it through a third party like Stripe, Bill, and then Puzzle can say, hey, I see that you sent an invoice over to Floyd's Merchant Marines. The invoices are $500. We're going to include that here. We're going to pull out the processing fee from Square, and there you go. So it is diverse, and you do have options, but if you're not using like a third-party processor that's linked and you're just having to send out random invoices every month, just like QuickBooks, just like Xero, just like Wave, you're still going to have a little bit of manual entry to do. Other items, here are your customers. Nothing crazy here. It's just a list of customers and how many invoices you've sent out. You can drill in to find additional information about each customer. I would expect to see names, addresses, previous transactions, things like that. Nothing to it. We are running short on time, so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about here you can categorize your products, kind of what revenue generation account they're going to stand from, and then also what you're selling and providing. You can get into some technical items like revenue recognition. Are you doing it on GAAP? Are you doing it on cash? Are you doing it on cost of completion, completed contract method? I'm actually very impressed with how diverse and deep Puzzle is in terms of what they offer for, I guess, from the technical standpoint, because you would think that it would be an AI plug and play. It's pretty good at basic stuff, but I have found that it's got a tremendous depth and breadth of offerings for most businesses, and so that's been really refreshing and pleasantly surprising. Moving on from me doting on it, you also have some standard reports, AR aging to see who's past due, who needs some help paying their bills, and then incoming customer payments. If we jump down to expenses, we can enter our bills. Typically, a bookkeeper would help do something like that. But if your bank account's on auto pay, let's say I'm paying my utility company around $300 to $500 a month, it's going to be able to say, okay, this went to the utility company. The description is going to be electric bill, and then it can help match it to say utility expense. Vendors, who you're paying, that's pretty straightforward. You drill in, you can get additional information such as addresses, previous transactions, things like that. This is a big one. This is something that I miss in QuickBooks a lot. And it doesn't look like I have anything to showcase here under the test company, but prepaid expenses such as prepaid health insurance premiums for your employees get amortized over 6 or 12 months. This is something that would be super helpful to keep a consistent P&L and to also showcase a relatively accurate balance sheet without having to do a ton of journal entries. AP aging, a standard report, vendor payments, what are you sending out to who, and then your payroll. So I've used something similar in the past in which I use Paychex as my third-party payroll provider, and then I use QuickBooks in order to kind of get a journal entry description from Paychex, and then I would input that into QuickBooks Online. Payroll through Puzzle is similar in that it generates a journal entry, but it can automatically generate a journal entry that showcases what's my cost to my payroll provider, what's going to be hitting salaries, what's going to be hitting benefits, and then all the various in and outs related to what's the employer portions of the payroll tax, and overall what it's going to cost for this pay run. You can filter it down by showcasing what the payroll period that you're looking to create is. But typically from what I've seen within the software, it does help do away with spending a ton of time on payroll, but you're still going to need to enter payroll through your third-party provider, and then you're going to want to double check if you have any unique payroll structure items. Once again, it's going to help make life easier, but you're not going to be able to put a blindfold on and just start driving. You still have to check, you still have to make sure that everything's being booked appropriately so your financial statements aren't misstated. If you jump down to downloads, you'll have all of your typical reports, your financial statements, accounting reports, chart of accounts, employee reports, things like that. And then the final, not last but not least, is settings. If you want to implement like connections to Square, Stripe, your payroll provider, things like that, you would drill into settings there, and then you would just implement via Plaid or a third party that helps you connect your account to the third-party platform that you're trying to access, and then Puzzle can just take it and run with it. So overall, for a relatively new software, I'm really impressed with the UI. I'm really impressed with the amount of reports, some of the more nuanced and technical features that you can get from Puzzle, such as those contra asset accounts, the plug-and-play compatibility with different payroll providers, and then just the dashboards themselves that show how the business is doing. I think this is a product that I am going to start recommending to my clients just because it's sleek, it's affordable, it's easy to understand, it has a great breadth of information. And overall, I would be very happy using Puzzle for my business or for my clients' businesses.